What if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? The TV flickered faintly in the corner of the dim motel room, casting dull flashes of light on the stained wallpaper as Lena Carter sat on the bed, arms wrapped around her knees, staring blankly at the screen. Her eyes were bloodshot, her fingers still trembling from the nightmare that jolted her awake hours earlier, but she hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, hadn't even blinked much. On the television, a talking head with too much makeup and a pasted-on smile spoke energetically into the camera. Sources close to Elon Musk suggest a mysterious prototype, codenamed Phoenix, might be closer than ever to being revealed to the world. Some say it could redefine global energy. What is it? No one knows for sure. Lena's mouth twisted slightly at the word Phoenix, as if it were a ghost crawling out of her memory. Her thumb instinctively brushed across the edge of the dog tag chain she wore around her neck, where Ethan's wedding ring still hung. His voice rang in her head, so clear and close it nearly knocked the air out of her lungs. If it ever gets out, everything will change, Lena. Everything. She reached across the bed, fingers fumbling until they found her laptop on the far nightstand. She hadn't touched it in days, not since the envelope arrived. Her hands were still dirty from clutching that USB drive like it was a lifeline. She plugged it in. The screen illuminated with a burst of light, and then came the words, Project Phoenix, Final Log. The video began to play. Ethan's face appeared, tired and pale, his hair slightly overgrown, eyes nervous but determined. "If you're watching this," he said, "then they got to me. And I'm sorry, Lena. I should have told you everything, but I thought keeping you in the dark would keep you safe. I don't know how much time I have, but Phoenix. It's real. It works. And it's dangerous. Not to people. To them. The ones who profit off keeping the world burning." He looked over his shoulder, then leaned in closer. "Don't trust anyone. But don't stop, either. This could save us all. Or cost everything." The video ended. Lena sat motionless for a long moment, then exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, but she ignored it. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She'd buried all of this for so long. The night Ethan died, was killed, she told herself it was fate, or bad luck, or even carelessness. But now the truth was crawling up from the shadows, forcing her to face the ugly thing hiding in her heart. She'd known something was wrong. And she did nothing. The world outside the motel room was just starting to stir, early morning traffic humming softly beneath a sky that hadn't decided whether it would rain or shine. She opened her inbox and searched for the name, Malik James. The only person Ethan ever trusted with his secrets. There, buried in years of dust and unread messages, was a thread labeled, Phoenix, burn after reading. She clicked. Coordinates. A name. A phrase, if the core still exists, it's in the desert. The hairs on the back of her neck stood up. Her throat tightened. She had no job, no plan, no money, but suddenly, she had a purpose again. Something deeper than grief. A reason to breathe. She stood up slowly, legs aching like she'd run miles in her sleep. A soft knock on the motel door made her freeze. Her heart leapt into her throat. No one knew she was here. She reached for her backpack and slid the USB inside, then walked silently to the door and peered through the peephole. Nothing. Just an empty parking lot stretching into misty morning haze. Still, a piece of white paper had been slipped under the door. She bent down and picked it up. One line, typed in the center of the page, "Stop looking, Lena. Or you'll end up like him." Her breath caught in her chest. She stumbled back, heart slamming in her ribs. The note trembled in her hand as she backed toward the bed, grabbed her pack, and stuffed what she could inside. She didn't know who they were. But they were watching. She left the motel without looking back, throwing her things into the trunk of her beat-up Honda Civic and peeling out of the lot as the sun started to rise. The USB drive burned in her pocket like a live wire. She drove with both windows down, letting the wind slap her awake. Her mind raced with images, Ethan's last day, his tired smile, the way he kissed her forehead and whispered, "Trust the truth, not the noise." He knew. And now she did, too. Phoenix wasn't just a project. It was a revolution. And someone was willing to kill to stop it. 2 hours later, she pulled into a dusty roadside diner off the interstate, needing coffee and Wi-Fi. She sat at the corner booth, her back to the wall, laptop open, phone face down. She watched every face that walked in, her pulse thudding like a drum. She accessed the encrypted files Ethan had left behind. Most of it was schematics she couldn't decipher, advanced engineering far beyond her scope. But one file stood out, a journal entry, voice recorded. She hit play. Ethan's voice returned, low and shaky. "They say the world runs on oil, but it really runs on fear. Fear of change, fear of collapse, fear of letting go. Phoenix doesn't just generate energy, it breaks the chains. If we release this, the oil barons lose control. And they won't go down quietly." His voice cracked. "I never wanted to be a martyr, Lena. I just wanted to fix something. Leave something better behind. If you've made it this far, you're stronger than I ever was." She pressed her hand against her mouth, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. She didn't feel strong. She felt terrified. But something else stirred beneath the fear. A flicker. A flame. She reached for her phone and opened the camera, hitting record. "My name is Lena Carter," she said softly. "I don't know if I'm a hero or just a woman who's lost too much. But I'm not running anymore. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?" She stopped recording, saved the video, and uploaded it anonymously to a secure video platform Ethan had once mentioned. Then she slid her laptop back into her bag and walked out of the diner. The coordinates pointed west. To Texas. To answers. To danger. But also, maybe, to the truth. The wind picked up as she stepped outside. It smelled like rain. Or gasoline. She wasn't sure which. But she knew this, the story was far from over. It had only just begun. Seattle had always been a city of contradictions, green forests framed by gray skies, warmth nestled inside cold drizzle, brilliant minds hiding in quiet coffee shops, but for Lena Carter, it had become a ghost town of memories she could no longer bear. Before the motel room, before the USB, before Ethan's voice cracked the wall she'd spent a year building around her grief, there was another life, full of promise, full of plans, and most painfully, full of love. She had met Ethan Winters at a sustainability conference on the University of Washington campus. He was late to the panel, his hair windblown and his glasses fogged from the rain. He sat beside her, muttered a joke about tech bros and overpriced solar panels, and then asked if she believed in miracles. "Only if they're peer-reviewed," she'd quipped without looking up. That was Ethan. Relentlessly curious, disarmingly brilliant, and just earnest enough to make cynicism seem lazy. Lena, at the time, had been finishing her graduate research on atmospheric modeling and renewable infrastructure. Ethan worked for an experimental division of one of Elon Musk's lesser-known companies, focused on pushing the limits of energy generation. They talked for 6 hours that night. By the end of the week, he'd moved into her apartment. By the end of the year, they were designing life around each other. But even then, Ethan carried a weight she couldn't touch. He never spoke about his work in detail, not really. He'd call it next-level stuff or above the pay grade of most politicians, but the gleam in his eyes said it mattered. Lena once found him staring out their window at 3 a.m., whispering to himself about resonance fields and harmonic layers, scribbling equations in the margins of her environmental science books. She teased him, once, asking if he was building a lightsaber. He kissed her forehead and said, I'm building freedom. She hadn't understood it then. She hadn't wanted to. In those days, Lena was still hopeful, still fiercely practical, still the kind of person who made contingency plans for her contingency plans. But everything changed the night Ethan didn't come home. The police said it was a crash, a single-car wreck off a winding road near the research facility outside Redmond. The guardrails were bent. The car was totaled. Ethan's body was found still wearing his access badge, the last text on his phone never sent, "I need to tell you something. It's bigger than both of us." She replayed that sentence in her head 1,000 times. She'd never replied. She couldn't. She'd been asleep when the text came through. She blamed herself. She blamed the rain. She blamed fate. But mostly, she blamed the silence that followed. No one from his team attended the funeral. No one from the company reached out. His emails vanished. His badge ID stopped working. His apartment keys, his research notebooks, even his cloud backups, all gone. Lena filed reports. She made phone calls. She screamed into phones and left voicemails and posted in forums. No one ever answered. No one ever explained. She'd been locked out of the world that took him from her. That world moved on. She didn't. For months, Lena drifted. She quit her job. Stopped answering friends. Ignored her parents' concerned voicemails. She sold her furniture, then her books, then her car, living in temporary rooms with her memories and guilt as constant companions. But grief has layers, and Lena discovered new ones every time she thought she'd hit bottom. A newspaper headline 6 months after Ethan's death sparked something dormant in her chest: Musk's quiet division eyes breakthrough in zero-emission tech. She read the article 15 times, dissecting every vague phrase, cross-referencing every mention of Project Phoenix. There was no mention of Ethan. No mention of his team. No recognition of the man who had given his life to something now being touted as a game-changer. That was the first night she typed his name into the dark web's whisper forums, the encrypted spaces where truth leaked like oil through the cracks. She wasn't a hacker, but she was desperate. She found fragments, nothing definitive, just rumors. Phoenix was a myth. Phoenix was a weapon. Phoenix could power a continent or destroy a city. And one whisper that echoed louder than the rest: Phoenix didn't disappear. It was buried. Buried with Ethan. She held that belief like a candle in a storm. And yet she did nothing, until the envelope came. Now, in the present, racing across backroads with only the desert on the horizon and Ethan's voice looping in her memory, she realized how hollow her life had become without purpose. Grief had been her prison, yes, but Phoenix might be her escape. Not from pain, but from silence. And to understand Phoenix, she had to understand Malik James. Malik had been Ethan's colleague, his confidant, the only other person Lena remembered Ethan speaking of in warm tones. "That guy's a genius, but a mess," he once said. "I trust him with my life, but not my lunch order." After the crash, Malik vanished. No obituary, no address, not even a LinkedIn update. It was as if he'd disappeared the same night Ethan did. But the coordinates in Ethan's file suggested otherwise. They pointed to El Paso, Texas. A garage workshop registered to a shell company with Malik's signature hidden in the metadata of one schematic. Lena booked a one-way bus ticket under a fake name. She slept with the USB drive zipped inside a pouch sewn into her jacket lining. As the miles passed, the cities blurred. She rehearsed what she'd say to him, how she'd prove she wasn't crazy or dangerous or being followed. She wondered if he'd believe her. She wondered if she'd believe herself. Her arrival in El Paso was anticlimactic. The station was mostly empty, the heat clinging to her skin like a second layer of clothing. She walked the 4 miles to the workshop. It was tucked behind an abandoned print shop, metal shutters covered in sun-bleached graffiti. She knocked twice, waited, knocked again. No answer. She tried the side door. It was unlocked. The inside smelled like solder and old coffee. Machines hummed softly. A cracked monitor flickered in the corner. Then, from the shadows, close the door. Now. Lena froze. The voice was deep, suspicious, and unmistakably armed with tension. She obeyed, slowly turning to see a man with wild hair, a grease-stained hoodie, and a wrench in his hand. His eyes scanned her like a machine. "You're Lena Carter," he said. "You shouldn't be here." She took a shaky breath. "I got your name from Ethan. I think he was murdered." Silence. He looked away. "That's a big word. Careful with it." She reached into her bag and pulled out the USB. His eyes widened. He stepped forward, snatched it, and plugged it into the terminal. The files loaded. He cursed under his breath. "I told him not to keep copies." Lena's voice cracked. "Why would someone kill him over this?" Malik exhaled sharply. "Because Phoenix doesn't just create clean energy. It eliminates the need for control. No more oil pipelines. No more electric grids. No more utility bills. Power everywhere, for everyone. You think the people who run the world want that?" Her heart thundered. "So it's real. It's very real. And very dangerous to the wrong people." He looked at her for a long time. "You being here, that means you're in, whether you want to be or not." She nodded slowly. She was tired of running. Tired of doubting. Tired of feeling like a ghost. "Then let's finish what Ethan started." Malik's lips tightened. "All right. But we don't have much time. If they know you're here, they'll come for us both." Lena stepped closer, her fear slowly hardening into resolve. "Then let them come." The room pulsed with electric tension as Malik closed the blinds and double-checked the lock on the steel door, his every movement sharp and deliberate, like a man who lived his life expecting betrayal. Lena stood still, unsure whether she was more afraid of him or the growing storm of truth forming around her. Malik inserted the USB into an air-gapped terminal and began analyzing the encrypted files without saying a word. The machine word as layers of coded schematics, video logs, and operational diagrams emerged across the screen in a kaleidoscope of technical data. Lena watched him absorb it all with a sort of grim reverence, like he was staring into the eyes of a dead friend. Finally, he turned to her and spoke, low and direct. "This was supposed to be buried. Ethan swore there were no backups. I told him, if even one copy survived, they'd never stop hunting it. He promised me, he swore he wiped everything." Lena's throat tightened. "He didn't wipe everything. He left it for me. He must have known I'd go looking." Malik shook his head slowly, pain flashing across his face. "Then he knew he wouldn't survive." The words settled between them like dust after a collapse. Lena stepped forward and pointed to a folder titled, "Final Log." She clicked. The screen filled with static, then slowly resolved into a video feed. Ethan's face appeared, lit by harsh fluorescent light, his features drawn tight with fatigue and urgency. He was inside a lab, wires trailing behind him, a glowing sphere pulsing faintly behind his shoulder. "This is Ethan Winters," he began, his voice steady but tinged with desperation. "If you're seeing this, it means I've failed. Or they stopped me. Phoenix is real. It works. It generates clean energy from ambient atmospheric frequencies. No fuel. No emissions. No external power source. It could power entire nations, indefinitely. But they know. And they won't let it happen." He paused, rubbing his face like he hadn't slept in days. "Lena, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry. I wanted to protect you. But now you're part of this. You need to find Malik. You need to keep going. The prototype, what we call the core, is hidden in the Nevada test site. Elon approved it. He believed in it. But others with power and oil to lose, they found out. They'll erase everything if they can. If you care about what we dreamed of, if you care about the world we wanted, don't let them win. The video cut to black. Malik sat back slowly, the silence in the room heavy and unspoken. Lena clutched the edge of the table, reeling from the sound of Ethan's voice, so close and alive and full of conviction. It ignited something inside her, a violent collision of grief and purpose. I want to go to the test site, she said, voice firm. I want to find the core. Malik looked at her like she had no idea what she was asking for. You think it's just sitting there, untouched? Since he died, the place has been scrubbed. I barely escaped with my life. The prototype's probably destroyed or buried under 10 feet of concrete. Lena shook her head. He said it was hidden. You know Ethan. He'd planned 10 steps ahead. He left that message for a reason. Malik sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. You don't understand. These people, they don't just erase data. They erase people. Journalists, scientists, whistleblowers, you never hear about them because they don't want you to. And now you're in their line of sight. Lena stepped forward. I don't care. I've already lost everything. If I can finish what Ethan started, then it means his death wasn't pointless. Malik stared at her, studying the resolve in her eyes. Eventually, he nodded. All right. We'll go. But not yet. We need to prepare. We need gear, aliases, an exit plan. He turned to a nearby cabinet and pulled out a map, unfolding it across the desk. There's an abandoned SpaceX facility outside Tonopah. Ethan worked there before the final prototype was moved. If there's anything left of Phoenix, it'll be there. Lena's mind spun as the pieces started aligning. She looked at the USB again, realizing how fragile this entire mission was, how quickly it could slip away if they weren't careful. But there was no turning back now. Malik opened a storage unit and began assembling supplies, hard drives, satellite phones, burner laptops, cash in multiple currencies. His paranoia was no longer eccentric. It was survival. We leave tonight, he said. Under cover of darkness. If they're watching, we can't give them a window. Lena nodded. Hours later, the two of them sat in an unmarked van heading west through the Texas desert. The road stretched endlessly before them, the horizon a blur of red dust and dying light. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Eventually, Lena broke the silence. How did you get out? Malik kept his eyes on the road. Barely. I knew they'd come after Ethan, but I didn't think they'd kill him. I thought they'd just shut us down, spin the narrative, maybe pull funding. But when I found out he was dead, I ran. Disappeared. Changed everything about my life. He paused. I tried to forget it. But Phoenix doesn't let you forget. Lena stared out the window, the desert landscape rolling by like a fever dream. He used to say the same thing. That it wasn't just technology. It was a revolution. Malik glanced at her. That's what scared them. Not the device. The idea. They drove through the night, stopping only once for gas and cheap coffee at a roadside diner where no one asked questions. Lena kept her hood up, sunglasses on, eyes scanning every face. They reached Nevada just before dawn, the sky turning pale blue behind a jagged range of mountains. The test site loomed ahead, fenced off and weather-beaten, the remnants of a forgotten facility swallowed by dust and time. Malik parked the van behind a ridge and pulled out binoculars. Still quiet. No patrols. No sensors. Either we're lucky, or it's a trap. Lena stepped out of the van, the morning air biting against her skin. She walked toward the perimeter fence, her heart pounding with every step. This was it. This was the place where Ethan had spent his final days. The place where something world-changing was born, or buried. Malik cut the fence and led her through the ruins. Buildings stood half-collapsed, rusting under decades of neglect. But deep underground, beneath the control tower, they found a sealed hatch marked with a phoenix insignia. Lena ran her fingers over the symbol, tears stinging her eyes. "He was here," she whispered. Malik pried the hatch open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. They climbed down, flashlights sweeping across long-abandoned corridors. At the end of the hall, they reached a steel door requiring biometric access. Malik inserted a device and hacked the panel. The door slid open. Inside was a small lab, dust covering the consoles, cables hanging like veins from the ceiling. And in the center of the room, beneath a shroud of protective glass, was a glowing orb the size of a basketball, gently pulsing with a soft blue light. Lena stepped forward, breath caught in her throat. "The core," she whispered. Malik stood beside her, awe and dread on his face. "It's still active." Lena reached for the tablet beside the display, unlocking it with the code Ethan had engraved into her ring, 41392. The screen blinked to life, displaying Ethan's final message: "If you made it here, you're the last hope. The core is live. It's stable. It's ready. But once you turn it on, you can't turn back." Lena looked at Malik, the weight of the world pressing down on her. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. She reached out and placed her hand on the activation panel. The orb flared, humming like a heart coming alive. The moment Lena's palm pressed against the activation panel, the room shifted. The core, dormant seconds ago, came to life with a soft, rising hum that pulsed in perfect rhythm with her heartbeat, as if it recognized her, as if it remembered Ethan and responded to his bloodline now flowing through her. The orb glowed brighter, casting a soft blue luminescence over the concrete walls, and the humming deepened into something melodic, like a frequency you felt more than heard. Malik stepped back, instinctively shielding his eyes, but his expression was awestruck. "It's syncing," he muttered. "It's attuning to the environment, atmospheric harmonics, maybe even biological input." Lena didn't know what any of that meant. All she knew was that the air had changed, vibrating with a power both ancient and futuristic, something more elemental than electricity and yet too precise to be anything other than engineered. A row of control panels blinked to life across the far wall, decades of dust sizzling away as if repelled by the core's presence. Data streams flooded the screen, temperature readings, environmental calibration, geolocation, energy output metrics, more information than Lena could process, but it was all live, updating in real time. "It's drawing power from nothing," Malik said, almost to himself. "Zero input. No fuel. No solar. No wind. No nuclear. It's just, existing. And sustaining. That's not just efficiency. That's perpetual." Lena turned to him, her voice barely steady. "You said this was the prototype. How stable is it?" Malik approached the console, fingers flying across the interface as he scrolled through logs, error codes, diagnostics. "According to this, it's been dormant but healthy. No degradation. No decay. It's like, it's been waiting. For you. For this exact moment." That idea, waiting, anticipating, sent a chill through Lena's spine. Ethan had always told her that Phoenix wasn't just technology. It was philosophy, almost spiritual in its ambition. A machine that gave without taking. A source that freed people instead of chaining them to grids, corporations, or government subsidies. She stepped closer to the core, and for a moment she swore she heard something, whispers, not of voices, but of memory. Ethan's voice saying her name, a laugh they'd once shared in a Seattle rainstorm, the sound of his heartbeat as she'd fallen asleep on his chest. She blinked it away, swallowing hard. This wasn't about ghosts. It was about the future. Malik pointed to a warning flashing red on the interface. This is the catch, he said. Once it's online, fully online, it emits a signal. Not strong. Not obvious. But someone's gonna notice. And when they do, they'll come. Fast. Lena stared at the data. Can it be moved? Malik shook his head. Not without dismantling, and even then we'd need a clean lab, vibration isolation, and weeks of calibration. Right now it's stable because it's here. Built into the room. Into the earth beneath it. They must have known this site was geologically ideal. Natural resonance, maybe even magnetosphere alignment. He looked at her. Ethan didn't just build it here for convenience. He built it here to survive. Lena's thoughts raced. They couldn't move it. But they couldn't leave it either. Not now that it was awake. Can we transmit this? She asked. The data. The proof. Can we show the world before they shut us down? Malik hesitated, then nodded. I can. But not from here. We need a secure uplink, something off-grid. Maybe a relay point in the Sierras. But that means travel. Risk. And once the files hit the net, we can't control what happens. Lena looked at the core, pulsing like a living thing, and made the decision that would change the course of everything. Then we transmit. No more hiding. Malik powered down the non-essential systems, preserving the core's output in standby mode. I'll prep the drives. You need to rest. We'll leave tonight. Lena didn't sleep. Instead, she sat beside the core for hours, watching it pulse in the darkness, thinking about the world outside and how little people understood about what truly controlled their lives. Oil. Gas. Utility monopolies. Patents locked in vaults. Innovations crushed before they could breathe. This machine could destroy all of that. Or it could vanish, like Ethan. And no one would ever know. As dawn broke, she walked outside for air. The desert stretched around her, harsh and beautiful, eternal in its stillness. She thought about her father, who used to work 3 jobs to keep their apartment heated in the winter. About her mother, who skipped meals so Lena could finish school. About the millions of people struggling while energy giants raked in billions, turning necessity into luxury. She made a vow in that moment, no matter what happened to her, this wouldn't be another secret buried under bureaucracy and greed. Malik joined her with the drives loaded into a secure case. Ready? He asked. She nodded. They packed fast and drove even faster, heading northwest along forgotten roads, avoiding highways, changing license plates every state line. Every hour they expected to be intercepted. Every passing car felt like a shadow from the enemy. Lena kept checking the rearview mirror, her nerves a live wire, her body bracing for impact. But no one came. Not yet. They reached a cabin hidden in the Sierra foothills by nightfall, one Malik had rigged years ago with an off-grid satellite uplink and a rotating IP beacon. He set up the workstation inside while Lena stood on the porch, staring into the forest, wondering if they were already surrounded. Inside, Malik began the upload. The files zipped, encrypted, duplicated, and shot through a chain of anonymous relays. A final confirmation blinked on the screen, Phoenix_data_release_1.0, transmitted. Lena let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. It's done. Malik nodded. The data's out. But we just lit a flare the size of a supernova. Lena's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number, no contact ID. Just one line, you made a mistake. She showed it to Malik. He stared at it, face darkening. They're coming. Within the hour, a drone circled overhead. Malik killed the lights and pulled Lena into the crawlspace beneath the cabin. Through the slats, she could see infrared beams scanning the property, methodically searching for heat signatures. "We have to move," he whispered. "If they find the van, we're trapped." He led her through a hidden exit into the woods, a narrow trail carved long ago for exactly this scenario. They moved fast, silently, Malik always 10 feet ahead, checking for traps and sensors. Behind them, the cabin exploded in a flash of white fire. Lena dropped to the ground, ears ringing, Malik dragging her up by the collar. "They're not asking questions anymore," he said. "We're targets now." For hours they hiked, following riverbeds, doubling back, changing direction. At dawn, Malik checked the status of the upload from a backup device. "It's spreading. Mirror sites picked it up. Anonymous accounts are posting it. Hacker groups. Clean energy forums. Even a few journalists." Lena's pulse quickened. "And the core?" Malik looked grim. "If they followed us this far, they know where it is. If we want to protect it, we have to go back." She didn't hesitate. "Then we go back." Malik stared at her like she was insane. "They'll be waiting." "Good," she said. "Then they won't see what's coming." The sun hadn't fully risen when Lena and Malik began their journey back toward the test site, retracing the winding path through Nevada's desert interior with no illusions about what waited for them there. The core was no longer a secret. The data had been released. The story had begun to spread. But the physical proof, the machine itself, was now more important than ever, and it was almost certainly under siege. Malik drove without music, without talking, without so much as a glance at Lena except to signal a turn or check the side mirrors. Every road they took was off the grid. Every gas stop was paid for in cash. They'd switched vehicles twice, moving from the burned-out shell of the van to a rusted pickup truck with Arizona plates Malik had acquired through a back-channel contact. Lena sat in the passenger seat, watching the desert blur past, her fingers gripping the USB drive she refused to let out of her sight. The sky widened the farther they drove, vast and cloudless, until even the road seemed to disappear into heat shimmer. It should have felt like a dead end. Instead, it felt like destiny tightening its grip around her. Her phone remained off, battery removed, SIM card snapped in half and thrown into a roadside ditch. But even so, she could feel them closing in. Not just the shadowy forces Malik feared, the unnamed agents of oil lobbies, defense contractors, and energy conglomerates, but something bigger, more intangible. A resistance to change so deep and embedded in society that it didn't need a name or a badge to do its damage. She thought about Ethan constantly, every hour now. His voice, his hands, the way he'd stare off in thought during dinner, distracted by equations or concepts she couldn't grasp. She remembered a night when he told her he was scared, not of failure, but of success. "What if it works?" he'd whispered into her neck. "What if we really can flip the world upside down? What if they can't stop it?" She hadn't answered. She hadn't known how. But now she understood. Because success didn't mean safety. Success meant war. By the time they reached the outskirts of the test site, night had fallen again. The desert was quiet, but not peacefully so. Malik pulled the truck into a gully and killed the engine. They crawled the last few hundred yards on foot, keeping low, careful not to disturb the rock formations that provided natural cover. Through his scope, Malik scanned the site. 4 vehicles, he whispered. Unmarked. Thermal gear. Satellite relay on the ridge. They've got a perimeter and at least 2 drones. Maybe more. Lena's pulse stayed steady. "Do you see the core building?" "Sealed," he replied. "But it's intact. They haven't breached it yet. Probably waiting for heavier equipment. Or a specialist." Lena nodded. "Then we still have time." They retreated to a shallow cave Malik had scouted months ago. From there, he unpacked a duffel bag filled with surveillance gear, radio jammers, and what looked like homemade EMP grenades. "These won't kill anyone," he said, handing her one. "But they'll fry cameras and comms long enough for us to move. We get in, we extract the core if possible, or we destroy it before they do. Either way, we don't let them control it." Lena hesitated. "If we destroy it, we lose our only physical proof." "Not if we record it first," Malik said, powering up a compact camera rig. "We film it. We narrate it. We explain how it works. And then we show the world what they were willing to kill for." Lena stared at the grenade in her hand, the weight of it, the implications. A year ago she was working on environmental policy papers. Now she was planning infiltration missions. But grief changes people. And so does truth. At 2:43 a.m., they moved. Malik launched a drone of his own, silent, cloaked, designed to mimic a bird at a distance. It fed real-time imagery to a display embedded in his watch. They circled around the west flank, avoiding the line of sight of the station guards, each one dressed like private contractors rather than government agents. Lena noticed the same logo on two of their jackets, a stylized flame over a pipeline. "Petrosin," Malik whispered. "One of the biggest fossil lobby groups in the world. Not officially military, but they pay better." Lena filed the name away like a curse. When they reached the edge of the operations tent, Malik tossed the first grenade. It detonated with a pop, followed by a burst of static across the airwaves. The lights in the camp flickered. Cameras went dark. Shouts erupted from inside the tents. "Now," Malik hissed. They ran. Reached the core facility. Lena input the code. The door resisted, then slid open with a hiss. Alarms started to whine, distant at first, then louder. They slipped inside and sealed it behind them. The core was still there. Unharmed. Glowing. Waiting. Lena approached it with reverence, Malik following with the camera. She spoke clearly, her voice shaking but firm. "This is the Phoenix Core. Built by Ethan Winters. Designed to power the world without combustion, without waste, without corruption. The people outside this door want to bury it. We won't let them." Malik swept the room, capturing angles, details, schematics on the walls, Ethan's notes still taped to the console. "You think they'll believe this?" Lena asked. "They'll have to," Malik said. "This is history. And we're not done yet." Outside, the shouting had intensified. Someone was trying to breach the door. "We can't take it with us," Malik said. "Too risky. But I can overload the safeguards. Set it to transmit a constant burst of its specs on a loop, like a signal beacon. Every hacker, every university, every black market lab in the world will get a copy." Lena knew what that meant. Once it began, there would be no stopping it. No taking it back. No pause. She placed her hand on the core one last time. "Do it." Malik activated the sequence. The core's glow intensified, shifting from blue to violet. A high-frequency tone filled the air. "It's working," Malik confirmed. "It's live. It's transmitting." A loud bang shook the door. Metal screamed. The breach was imminent. Malik handed Lena the camera and a backup drive. "Take this. Through the vent shaft. Head north. There's a tunnel system, old mining shafts. They won't know about them." "What about you?" she asked, panic creeping into her voice. "I'll slow them down," he said. "Go. Now." She hesitated, tears burning in her eyes, then climbed into the shaft and crawled through the darkness, the sound of boots and shouts echoing behind her. When she emerged an hour later into the cold desert morning, smoke curled on the horizon. She turned back only once. And then she ran. Lena ran until her legs gave out, collapsing beside a dried-up arroyo with the morning sun clawing over the desert ridge like it was trying to burn away the night. Her body ached. Her lungs felt like broken glass. But her mind was still racing, still alive with the memory of the core glowing violet, Malik's voice shouting over the alarm, the last glance they shared before she disappeared into the vent shaft. She knew what he was doing back there. He was buying time. Probably building a distraction. Maybe laying traps. Maybe planning to destroy the facility entirely. But the truth, deep, cold, and undeniable, was that she might never see him again. And if she didn't finish what they started, then none of it would matter. She pulled out the small black case containing the camera and the backup drive. The screen blinked back at her, batteries still healthy, footage intact. She scrolled through the clips quickly, herself standing beside the core, describing it, naming Ethan, identifying the technology, naming Peterson. There was footage of schematics, graphs, the core itself pulsing with power. It was enough to prove everything. It was real. And now, it needed to be seen. Her mind jumped to the next step. She couldn't go to a news station. Not a mainstream one. They'd get a legal takedown order or worse, turn her in before the segment could air. She needed a platform immune to censorship, wide-reaching, fast, and hosted by someone too independent or too public to disappear quietly. She remembered the message boards Ethan used to follow. One in particular, an encrypted live streaming platform called Firewire, used by whistleblowers, fringe scientists, and rogue investigative journalists. She pulled out a satellite hotspot Malik had slipped into her backpack. It still worked. The signal was weak, but it was something. She balanced it on a rock, powered on her laptop, and opened the broadcast software they'd rigged for emergencies. Then, with shaking fingers, she clicked Go Live. The screen lit up with a blinking red light, live, 0 viewers. Then 1. Then 7. Then 32. Lena leaned forward and spoke into the camera. If you're watching this, I need you to listen. My name is Lena Hart. I'm an environmental policy researcher. And what I'm about to show you could change everything you think you know about energy, about power, about control. She took a breath. My fiancé, Ethan Winters, was murdered for trying to bring this technology into the light. What he created is real. It's called the Phoenix Core. It doesn't burn fuel. It doesn't need wind or sun. It just works. Infinitely. It could power entire cities. Countries. The planet. And they killed him for it. She hit play on the footage. Her live feed showed the core glowing, the schematics, the pulse. People were joining fast now. Hundreds. Then thousands. The comments section exploded with disbelief, with insults, with questions, with support. This is fake. This is CGI. Is that Elon's voice in the background? Holy hell, that's a perpetual energy signature. No way this survives an hour. She's dead already. Keep going. We see you. Lena returned to the camera, eyes burning with exhaustion and resolve. They don't want this out there. They've tried to stop it for years. But you've seen the data. You've seen the proof. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is the future, and we just tore the lid off it. A sharp beep from the hotspot warned her of signal degradation. She knew the stream wouldn't last long. She needed to finish strong. If I disappear, if I go offline, mirror this. Save it. Share it. Burn it into every server on the planet. The truth belongs to everyone now. She ended the broadcast and immediately started copying the stream archive to multiple encrypted drives, uploading to dead-drop storage sites, seeding torrents, all while the battery ticked down, and the sun baked the desert around her like a kiln. Within 20 minutes, the clip had been downloaded over 10,000 times. Within an hour, she was trending on fringe forums and social media circles that operated like digital wildfires, unpredictable, volatile, and impossible to fully contain. She buried the hotspot and laptop in a shallow crevice, marked it with a rock, and began walking north toward a highway she remembered passing on their way in. Her only goal now, get somewhere public. Visible. Somewhere they couldn't quietly grab her without someone noticing. She flagged down a trucker 3 miles later, stumbling into the road like a ghost. The driver, an older man with mirrored sunglasses and a wary face, looked her over and said, "You in trouble?" "Yeah," she said. "The kind you don't come back from." He didn't ask anything else. Just opened the door. By nightfall, she was in Reno, sitting in a cheap diner with buzzing fluorescent lights and a line of bikers crowding the counter. She used a burner phone to check the news. Not CNN. Not Fox. But the underground circuit, bloggers, tech analysts, alt-media podcasters. They were on fire. Whistleblower releases footage of alleged infinite energy core. Elon Musk's secret energy prototype, hoax or revolution. Peterson involved in black ops sabotage. One headline stopped her cold, unconfirmed reports of explosion at former SpaceX site, dozens missing. She knew what that meant. Malik. The core. The people sent to stop them. She wanted to cry, but she didn't. She couldn't. Not yet. She uploaded a follow-up message, short, direct, calm. This isn't over. The data's out there. If you have the skill, the tools, the courage, replicate it. Build your own. Let them try to stop everyone. And then she vanished again. She changed her hair. Her name. Her location. For weeks she bounced between cities, never staying long enough to draw attention. The story had legs now, far beyond her reach. It hit mainstream TV eventually, when a respected physics professor from MIT went on air and said, "Based on what I've seen, it's not only plausible, it's groundbreaking. If the Phoenix core is real, then the world is about to change in ways we cannot yet imagine." That opened the floodgates. Suddenly, people started digging. Former employees of Peterson. Disgruntled engineers from defense firms. Quiet phone calls from old friends of Ethan's. Journalists who had ignored her calls a month ago now sent encrypted messages asking for interviews. But she said no. This wasn't about her anymore. This was bigger. The Phoenix core became an idea more than a machine. A symbol. Hacker groups began claiming they had working versions. University labs published open-source designs. Patent trolls tried, and failed, to claim ownership. Nations denied it existed, then quietly ordered research task forces to study it. And everywhere Lena went, she saw it growing. The seed Ethan planted had taken root. In an internet cafe in Montreal, a kid handed her a USB drive, whispered, "We built one. It works," and walked away. In a shipping yard in Malaysia, someone had painted the Phoenix symbol on a crate that hummed with hidden power. She knew then what Ethan had meant when he said he was scared of success. Because once the truth is out, you can't control what people do with it. But it's still better than the lie. One night, in a hostel in Portugal, she logged into a secure channel Malik had set up months ago. She didn't expect anyone to respond. But then a message appeared, "You didn't wait." She gasped. Typed quickly. "You're alive." A pause. Then, barely. But the core wasn't destroyed. It's hidden again. Someone will find it when the world's ready. You made sure of that. She smiled through tears for the first time in what felt like years. "What now?" she typed. Malik's answer was immediate. "Now, we watch the world catch up." It began slowly at first, like a ripple from a pebble tossed into the ocean, but soon those ripples turned to waves. What had once been a fringe theory discussed in niche forums and encrypted chat rooms had now broken through into the global mainstream. Lena watched it unfold from a borrowed apartment in Lisbon, surrounded by maps, notes, burner phones, and a stack of new IDs she hadn't had the courage to use yet. News anchors on every major network debated the footage. Experts were split. Some dismissed the Phoenix core as clever digital fabrication. Others called it the beginning of a new epoch. But the most telling response came not from the talking heads, but from silence. Governments around the world issued no formal statements. Peterson denied involvement, calling the allegations reckless conspiracy mongering. And yet, behind the scenes, Lena could see the machine moving. Journalists who had begun investigating Phoenix suddenly went dark. Articles were pulled. Forums were shut down. Accounts were suspended. But for every one that disappeared, 3 more sprang up. The Streisand effect had taken hold. Suppression only made the core more real in the eyes of the public. Elon Musk himself was asked directly about the footage during a live-stream Q&A for a Tesla launch event. He paused, smiled that cryptic half-smile, and said, "Let's just say, the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed yet." That quote trended for days. Lena saw it printed on T-shirts, scrawled on walls, turned into a meme and a battle cry. She received an anonymous package days later, postmarked from Austin, Texas. Inside was a prototype circuit board, etched with initials, EW/MH. A note was taped to it, in handwriting she recognized instantly as Ethan's, for the next dreamer. "Don't let them bury this." She clutched it to her chest, tears leaking silently down her face. That night, she made contact with Malik again. He was in hiding, somewhere in Eastern Europe, hopping between safe houses with a new set of names and tech allies surrounding him. "They tried to wipe us off the map," he said through an encrypted voice channel. "But now it's spreading faster than they can contain it. The blueprint's been downloaded over 6 million times. Governments are trying to intercept shipments of rare earth elements. Universities are secretly rebuilding test models. It's a race now." "A race against what?" she asked. "Collapse," he answered. "The old world isn't going down without a fight." And he was right. Because that's when the real war began. Not with bullets. Not yet. But with headlines, lawsuits, and Black Ops propaganda. Overnight, a campaign launched accusing Lena of fraud, of hacking, of eco-terrorism. Deepfakes appeared showing her saying things she never said, doing things she never did. A doctored arrest video went viral, showing her supposedly being detained at a Canadian border. It wasn't real. But it didn't have to be. People believed what they wanted. That was the weapon now, misinformation. The truth didn't matter, only control over the narrative. But Lena had learned from the best. She countered by releasing full video logs, timestamped and cross-verified. She partnered with a growing alliance of rogue scientists, influencers, and engineers who called themselves The Signal, a decentralized collective whose only goal was to get Phoenix tech into the hands of ordinary people. Not to sell. Not to license. But to share. Open source revolution. One lab in India claimed they powered an entire hospital wing for a week using a third-generation Phoenix core built from scratch. A rural village in Kenya ran water pumps non-stop using a modified system inspired by the design. An apartment building in Brazil, completely off-grid, broadcast their own Phoenix-modified blueprints on darknet forums. They were raw. Imperfect. Some exploded. But most worked. Lena watched all of it unfold in awe. It was no longer about her. It was bigger than her. It was about a world waking up to what had been stolen from them. But the pushback intensified. The U.S. Senate held emergency hearings on emerging energy disinformation. Lena was name-checked as a threat to national infrastructure. The Department of Energy issued a formal bulletin warning that unverified fusion-adjacent power experiments posed a strategic threat. No one mentioned Peterson. But behind every politician's carefully chosen words, Lena could hear the fingerprints of corporate panic. She knew the truth because she lived it. She also knew it meant time was running out. So she went underground again, not to hide, but to train. Malik introduced her to a small team in Prague: physicists, hackers, drone tech specialists, and one former intelligence analyst who had defected after discovering his agency's connection to Phoenix suppression. Together, they mapped out Petroson's global infrastructure. Their data centers, their research labs, and most importantly, their vaults. Literal underground storage sites where they kept confiscated tech, stolen patents, and anything that posed a threat to their oil empire. "We're not just exposing them," Lena said during a team briefing. "We're going to break in. And we're going to show the world what else they've buried." The plan was insane. High risk. But not impossible. And they had something Petroson didn't: public support growing louder by the day. Anonymous whistleblowers started leaking documents. Audio files. Internal memos. One in particular made headlines: a boardroom recording where Petroson executives openly discussed delaying the renewable future for at least 30 years to preserve market control. That line, once leaked, broke through every barrier. Even mainstream networks had to cover it. Protests erupted. Congressional investigations reopened. The public outrage was no longer containable. Lena moved again, this time to Berlin, where she would prepare the final phase of the mission. A heist, not for money, but for history. The vault was located in a decommissioned NATO facility outside Zurich, now operated under a Petroson subsidiary called Dirix Technologies. Underneath 5 levels of biometric security, motion sensors, and automated defense protocols sat what insiders referred to as the Cold Library, a climate-controlled archive of everything Petroson had buried since the 1980s. Blueprints. Samples. Disks. Servers. If Ethan's other early prototypes were anywhere, it would be there. The signal gathered for the first time in person. 21 members from 12 countries. Lena stood at the front of the room with a laser pointer and a map. "This isn't just about getting the tech out," she said. "It's about truth. It's about showing the world how far they went to stop us from moving forward." Malik was there too, grayer, leaner, but sharper than ever. "They want this to stay locked away until we forget it even existed. Let's make sure that never happens." The plan would take 8 days to prepare. 1 night to execute. They knew they might not all make it back. But that wasn't the point. Lena looked around the room, at engineers, journalists, activists, dreamers, and felt the weight of every decision she'd made to get there. She thought of Ethan. Of the night he died. Of the moment she touched the core and felt it stir beneath her hand. "They wanted this buried," she said. "But it's rising. And we're not done yet." They moved under the cover of storm clouds, the kind that rolled in low and heavy over the Alps, drenching the world in tension before a single drop fell. The operation had been rehearsed in abandoned train yards and darkened warehouses across Berlin, but this was the real thing now. There would be no second chance. Lena stood in the back of a silent cargo van as it wound its way up the narrow switchbacks outside Zurich, dressed in a full technician uniform, her hair tucked beneath a cap, a forged Dirix Technologies ID clipped to her chest. Beside her, Malik adjusted the straps on his vest, eyes scanning the tablet showing drone feeds from above the compound. The others were in position already, 5 on the perimeter, 4 underground, 2 hacking the internal security system from a fake telecom truck parked half a mile south. 21 people, 1 goal: get inside the Cold Library and extract the truth. It wasn't just Ethan's designs they were after anymore. Over the last week, documents leaked by a former Petroson compliance officer revealed the vault contained evidence of dozens of suppressed breakthroughs, advanced battery tech, zero-emission combustion models, magnetic propulsion theories, and even medical patents with the potential to upend pharmaceutical monopolies. The place was a black hole for innovation. Anything that threatened the global elite's grip on wealth and power ended up buried beneath this mountain. And tonight, they were going to light it on fire. Lena felt calm. That surprised her. There was no fear now, only focus. The air buzzed in her lungs like a storm trapped inside her ribcage. At 2:17 a.m., the signal came through Malik's earpiece, "System down. 4 minutes of blackout. Go." The van stopped. They moved quickly. The rear door opened into darkness. Cold wind slapped her face as she jumped out, boots crunching softly on gravel. The outer fence sparked as the jammer fried its security grid. 2 teammates clipped it open with silent bolt cutters. Then they were through. Inside the facility, backup generators kicked on in isolated areas, but the main security AI was still offline. That gave them a thin window to breach the service door without alerting the compound's central threat detection. Lena typed in the access code Malik had acquired from a disgruntled IT consultant bribed with a clean identity and offshore bank account. The keypad flashed green. The door opened. They stepped into the belly of the beast. The corridor stretched ahead in flickering half-light, the sterile scent of ozone and concrete filling the air. Lena's boots echoed in rhythm with Malik's as they passed steel doors, ventilation shafts, biometric scanners with blinking red eyes. "Level 3, Malik whispered. "That's where they're storing the original core drive." She nodded, pulled out the portable EMP spike from her side pouch, and jammed it into the next panel. Sparks danced, locks popped, and the lift doors opened. They dropped fast. 1 floor. 2. 3. A hiss of pressure. The doors opened into silence. The cold library. It looked like a museum designed by a sociopath, rows of sealed chambers, transparent panels showing locked server racks, plasma storage units, prototype components suspended in vacuum-sealed cases. Each item labeled only with a date and a suppression code. Lena walked past a case containing what looked like a miniature wind turbine that spun without air movement. Another case held a set of metal plates designed to deflect heat using a process she didn't understand but recognized from her research into passive solar shielding. But her goal was clear. Row 7, compartment 14B. Ethan's. She found it. A small, brushed aluminum case embedded in a data wall, its label burned in, PHX CRE_1.0_EW. She touched the surface. Cold. Real. Undeniable. Malik scanned the case with a handheld duplicator. The drive inside was copied instantly, but Lena shook her head. "I'm taking the original too." "That's not the plan," he said. "That case is tracked. GPS, thermal, maybe even biometric triggers." "Then I'll carry it," she said. This was Ethan's. His hands touched this. "We're not leaving it behind." He didn't argue. He just nodded. Then their earpieces lit up with static followed by a voice, "We've got movement topside. You've got 90 seconds. Repeat, 90. The return was faster, Messier. One of their perimeter team was spotted and engaged. The facility's secondary AI system kicked in, locking down the outer doors. Red strobes began to flash through the corridor. Automated defenses activated, drones armed with non-lethal rounds zipped down the hallways. Lena ducked as one zipped overhead, scattering sparks from the ceiling tiles. Malik fired a jammer round that brought it crashing to the ground with a hiss. "Back door," he said, pulling her down another passage, one they'd mapped weeks ago through stolen schematics. They found the maintenance hatch hidden behind a fake wall panel, popped it open, and crawled into the crawlspace just as the hallway behind them exploded in sparks and shattered glass. Inside the shaft, Lena held the case to her chest and crawled until her elbows bled. She could hear boots echoing somewhere above, muffled voices calling out in German and English. Orders being barked. Alarms screaming like wounded animals. "Keep going," Malik said. "Tunnels another 30 meters." They emerged through a panel into a drainage canal that had been dry for a decade, ran the final stretch across open dirt, and dove into the back of an old garbage truck parked beside a faux construction site. The driver, a signal contact from Poland, hit the gas without a word. 5 minutes later, they were on the Autobahn heading south. The vault disappeared behind them. And with it, a piece of the old world. In the back of the truck, Lena opened the case. Inside was the original Phoenix core firmware. Beside it, a handwritten letter folded neatly and marked with Ethan's initials. She unfolded it with trembling hands. It read, "Lena, if you're reading this, you made it further than I ever did. I didn't build the core to become rich or famous. I built it because I saw a world choking on its own past. You were always the future. Whatever happens next, don't stop. Don't ever stop. I love you. Ethan." The paper smelled like the lab. Like metal and dust and ozone. She wept quietly, tears falling onto her hands as the truck sped into the dark. The footage of the break-in leaked 2 days later, drone angles, security cam clips, anonymous eyewitness reports. But this time, the reaction was different. People didn't call it theft. They called it justice. Hashtags flooded every corner of the internet, hashtag free the core, hashtag Phoenix Rising, hashtag innovation is not crime. Peterson denied everything, of course. They claimed the Zurich site was nothing more than a backup data center. But then a former employee released the entire internal inventory list. 43 suppressed patents. 19 full prototypes. Lena's team had only scratched the surface. But it was enough. That same week, a small startup in Vietnam announced the public release of a working Phoenix-style microgrid module, capable of powering 10 homes off a device the size of a suitcase. Sales crashed their servers. Governments scrambled. Oil stocks plummeted. And Lena knew, this was just the beginning. They'd cracked the vault. Now they were flooding the world. The world didn't just wake up, it exploded. Lena watched from a small safe house in Amsterdam as the ripple they triggered in Zurich became a tidal wave. Government regulators in Australia announced an emergency commission to assess alleged Phoenix tech. Norway's energy minister called it the most significant breakthrough since nuclear power. In India, utilities declared they were testing modular Phoenix units to power remote villages. A wave of grassroots innovation surged, garages in Detroit, basements in Buenos Aires, blackouts in Dakar, the world was rebuilding itself one humming core at a time. Dmitry, the former intelligence analyst from Prague, messaged Lena, "Satellite scan shows at least 17 Phoenix cores active worldwide. Locations include rural Chile, coastal Kenya, and 2 locations inside the US." Those numbers floored her. The secret was out, and the genie couldn't go back into the bottle. But with every triumph came backlash. Major oil and gas companies filed lawsuits, claiming intellectual property theft, national security breaches, sabotage of infrastructure. Peterson affiliates began lobbying governments to declare Phoenix Tech a controlled weapon, restricted for research only, banned for commercial or civilian use. Rolling news channels, often resistant to change, began framing Phoenix as a menace. Could runaway energy tech fry the grid? Eco-terrorist tools perplex regulators. The fear campaign was mounting. Lena knew this fight wasn't with labs or tinkers, it was with narrative and power. She arranged a live online debate via Firewire with one of Peterson's legal execs. She didn't expect fireworks, she cornered him. She said, if Phoenix Tech can be replicated in garages, then being a restricted weapon doesn't stop it. It only cements power into hands already controlling energy. You can't regulate innovation, you hide from it. You can't stop it. You fight it, or join it. The exec sputtered. His only response, "You're putting people at risk." She replied, "I'm putting people first." The clip went viral, millions watched a calm Lena stand her ground. She became the face of responsible disruption. Yet she wasn't immune to doubt. The lawsuits were piling up. The threats were intensifying. Her courier network had been breached twice. More whistleblowers were disappearing. She learned the identity of 2 other Signal members who vanished, no trace. Fear was setting in. One morning, she received a short encrypted audio file from Malik. His voice, ragged, in the background of gunfire. "They found me. I'm wounded, heading north, can't say more." The line cut. Lena's blood ran cold. She slammed her fist on the table, then shredded the message feed. Panic flared, but she swallowed it. She couldn't falter, not now. She called a meeting with the Signal Council, engineers, physicists, journalists, activists, drone pilots. They needed a plan. Step 1, decentralize. Teach tens of thousands of local communities to build, maintain, and protect mini Phoenix units. Step 2, legal safe haven. Identify countries or states where the tech could be protected under energy sovereignty laws. Step 3, open source Phoenix 1, a simplified design, freely distributed with safety protocols. They worked day and night, mapping supply chains, drafting educational guides, building solar-powered core shelters that could power clinics, schools, community centers. Lena handled PR, messaging, readings while others engineered, coded, improvised. She felt split, hope and fear intertwined. The world was rebuilding, but powerful forces were rising to slow it down. Weeks passed. A breakthrough, the open-source Phoenix 1 model was successfully assembled in a rural hospital in Vietnam. It self-powered critical medical equipment during a grid blackout. A viral video showed a doctor saying in Vietnamese, "For the first time, we have power that doesn't disappear with the lights." That was all the proof they needed. Public sentiment surged again. But then a darker wave hit. A coordinated smear campaign painted Phoenix 1 as unstable weaponized tech. News reported unnamed, grid anomalies, in Europe, and blamed Phoenix. Lena watched the footage, flickering city lights, hospital backups kicking in, terrified families. The governments that had embraced Phoenix tech suddenly instituted lockdowns, seizures, and surveillance. She heard that in Texas, armed militia had organized to protect, or eliminate, Phoenix reactors in ranch sites. She heard gunfire. Deaths. Terror. The revolution had its casualties. That night, Lena couldn't sleep. She stared at the Phoenix symbol Ethan had drawn on the wall of their hideout. She thought of Malik. Bloodied, hunted, maybe dead. She thought of the families turned upside down by renegade tech. She thought of the core in Nevada, the one Ethan built, still humming away under guard. She realized, with a hollow clarity, that this was no longer about innovation, it was about responsibility. She needed help. She arranged a digital summit, the Global Phoenix Summit. Using secured satellite links and anonymous participation, they invited energy ministers, tech leaders, humanitarian groups, regulators, even oil executives. They didn't all show up, but a critical mass did. Lena opened with a speech, "Innovation without inclusion is theft. Technology without stewardship is destruction. Phoenix isn't a weapon. It's a promise. A contract between our generation and the next." She unveiled safety layers, tamper-resistant seals, open audit logs, distributed fabrication so no one entity owned it. She released licensing tiers, community use, industrial use, emergency use, but only under transparency agreements. Tears streaked her face as she spoke, because it was the first time she felt what this truly meant, not just taking control of energy, but sharing control. When the summit ended, Fox News ran a segment, "Mysterious Activist Sparks Debate on Energy Anarchy." But NPR ran another. "Grassroots Energy Revolution Offers Hope in a Changing Climate." Suddenly, the conversation had nuance. Phoenix was now a symbol of collective tech ownership, not chaos. And then, a video message from Malik. He appeared visibly thinner, his left arm bandaged, bruised cheek. He gripped a laptop in one hand, positioned to show a security badge with a photo, himself, alive, in a hospital bed in Serbia. His voice trembled, "I made it. I'm alive. The core in Zurich made it. Phoenix 1 is live in dozens of places. But this is just the beginning. Watch your back. They're still coming." He finished the video with a weak smile. Lena wept again, relief and sorrow tangled tight in her throat. She responded publicly, "Thank you, brother. We rise with you. We rise for everyone." The next day, global energy markets froze. Oil stocks dropped 8%, gas futures crashed. In Europe, shareholders in major utility firms demanded transparency on Phoenix Tech. In Africa, a coalition of nations proposed a treaty, the Phoenix Accord, to regulate, test, and share clean energy technology as a human right. In America, Congress introduced a resolution protecting decentralized energy research from federal prosecution. Lena watched it all unfold, her heart pounding. She realized something revolutionary, they'd done it. But she also realized something horrifying, the real work had just begun. Because now that the world was changing, the watchers were watching harder. And she was in the middle. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and whispered, "For Ethan." The sun rose over Amsterdam, its light tempered by clouds, but bright enough to signal a new day. And in the distance, somewhere in Nevada, a heart-shaped pulse hummed steadily. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The Phoenix Revolution had hit the global stage, but beneath the headlines and viral videos, an unseen war unfolded. Lena sat in a dimly lit room in San Francisco, the glow of multiple monitors casting shadows on her face. Intelligence reports from signal operatives in 5 continents streamed in, each message a thread in a complex tapestry of espionage, sabotage, and digital warfare. The battle lines were invisible but razor-sharp. Peterson and their allies were deploying a new breed of enforcers, cyber mercenaries, black ops teams, and shadow regulators who worked outside public view to crush the Phoenix uprising. Lena's network was being hacked daily, data stolen, courier routes exposed, activists arrested. It was a silent war fought in bits and bullets. A sudden alert popped up on her screen. An unknown drone was tracking the movement of a Phoenix 1 prototype being assembled in a small workshop in Detroit. Lena called Malik. "We've got eyes on the Detroit team. They're exposed. Extraction needed, now." Malik's voice crackled back, exhaustion clear but steady. "Sending extraction squad." Minutes later, a convoy of black SUVs raced down deserted highways toward the Motor City's outskirts. Inside the workshop, 2 engineers hurried to pack prototype components. The tension was palpable, eyes darting to windows, ears tuned to distant sirens. When the SUVs arrived, the extraction team moved with military precision, loading the engineers and gear into vehicles just as the drone buzzed overhead, spotlights slicing the night. The team disappeared into the shadows, but Lena knew it was only a matter of time before another Phoenix hub was compromised. She pushed to harden communications, new quantum encryption protocols, satellite relays disguised as commercial broadcasts, burner networks. Every breakthrough came with a counterattack. Meanwhile, the energy landscape was shifting faster than ever. Nations once reliant on oil revenue scrambled to adapt or collapse. Russia announced emergency measures to nationalize energy resources, while Saudi Arabia launched an international PR campaign touting responsible energy transition. The UN convened emergency summits, debating the legal status of decentralized energy tech. Yet grassroots movements blossomed. Communities powered by Phoenix cores reported lower crime, better healthcare, and renewed hope. The tech was no longer theoretical, it was survival. But not everyone welcomed this upheaval. During a conference in Geneva, Lena was confronted by a group of stern-faced regulators representing several powerful countries. They accused her of fueling chaos and warned that Phoenix tech could destabilize entire economies. She countered with a quiet but firm plea: the current system is unsustainable. If we don't innovate inclusively, the collapse will be catastrophic. Phoenix isn't the enemy, it's the cure. The regulators left unconvinced, but Lena's speech gained traction in academic circles and policy forums. Public opinion was fractured, hopeful but fearful. Behind the scenes, the sabotage escalated. Signal operatives reported attacks on supply chains delivering rare earth materials essential for Phoenix reactors. Factories were burned, shipments intercepted. Lena feared a coordinated effort to starve the technology before it could take root. Then came the worst blow: Malik disappeared again. This time, the message was chilling: a fragmented video, distorted and dark, with Malik's voice pleading, "Trust no one. The enemy wears our face." Lena felt the weight of the fight crush her. She couldn't lose him. But there was no time to grieve. She doubled down on training local teams in counter-surveillance and emergency protocols. Every village, every city block with a Phoenix core became a fortress. Meanwhile, Ethan's original core, still hidden in Nevada, became a symbol of resistance. A clandestine group, calling themselves the Keepers, vowed to protect it at all costs. They operated in silence, spreading encrypted messages urging others to keep faith. Lena reached out to them, forging a fragile alliance. The Keepers were cautious, but they knew the stakes. Together, they planned a mass mobilization, a coordinated launch of hundreds of Phoenix units worldwide on the anniversary of the Zurich raid. The event, codenamed Phoenix Rising, would be a statement to the world. Preparations consumed Lena. The night before the launch, she found herself alone on the rooftop of the safe house, staring at the sprawling city below. The lights flickered, some fueled by old grids, others by new hope. She thought of Ethan, Malik, the countless unnamed fighters risking everything. This wasn't just technology, it was a revolution of spirit. At dawn, the signal was sent. Across continents, lights blazed to life. Communities flickered on, homes, clinics, schools, factories, powered by the humming heart of Phoenix cores. Social media exploded with images and stories of transformation. But the victory was bittersweet. Security forces raided several launch sites, arresting activists and seizing equipment. Yet the movement was unstoppable. The silent war raged on, an invisible clash between old powers and new possibilities. And at the center stood Lena, determined, unyielding, ready to see the revolution through, no matter the cost. The world was no longer divided simply by nations or borders, it was divided by energy. Phoenix technology had shifted the global balance of power, fracturing old alliances and forging unexpected ones. Lena felt the tremors in every communication, every strategic move across continents. The quiet war had become a global chessboard, and every move mattered. In Washington, D.C., the political establishment was in turmoil. Some senators pushed aggressively for federal control over Phoenix technology, advocating for strict regulation and national security oversight. Others, influenced by grassroots activists and tech visionaries, argued for decentralized ownership and open access. Lena's appearance at a congressional hearing electrified the debate. She spoke with passion: "This isn't about control, it's about liberation. Phoenix is a tool for communities to reclaim their futures. We must trust people, not monopolies." Her words sparked fierce arguments but also gained sympathy from a new generation of lawmakers hungry for change. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the European Union struggled with its own identity crisis. Countries like Germany and the Netherlands pushed for rapid adoption of Phoenix cores to meet climate targets, while others, wary of economic disruption, called for caution and phased rollouts. The tension spilled into the streets, protests erupted, some violent, others peaceful, but all fueled by the uncertainty of the new energy order. Lena found herself constantly balancing diplomacy and urgency. She convened a virtual summit with leaders from emerging Phoenix communities, from remote Alaskan villages to bustling Nigerian megacities. The summit was a chaotic symphony of languages, ideas, and ambitions. They shared success stories and challenges: how to maintain security, how to scale production, how to integrate Phoenix tech with existing grids. Yet beneath the surface lay deeper fractures. Old energy companies and governments weren't going to surrender power without resistance. Lena's intelligence network uncovered plans for covert operations targeting Phoenix hubs, cyber attacks designed to cripple core systems, disinformation campaigns to turn public opinion, and even physical raids to confiscate equipment. Trust became the currency of survival. Lena had to vet every new contact, question every ally. Even within the signal, whispers of betrayal circulated. One trusted engineer vanished overnight, leaving behind encrypted warnings of an insider leak. Paranoia gnawed at the group's cohesion. Lena decided to strengthen internal protocols, rotating leadership, compartmentalized projects, secure offline communication channels. She also sought out new allies, scientists, activists, even whistleblowers from fossil fuel industries disillusioned with the status quo. Among them was Dr. Amara Patel, a renowned physicist who had quietly developed a breakthrough catalyst that could increase the efficiency of Phoenix cores by 30%. Amara's lab in Mumbai became a new beacon of hope, attracting talent and funding from unconventional sources. Lena arranged a secure meeting with Amara, and their connection was electric, two brilliant minds united by purpose and grit. But the stakes were rising. Petrosin had evolved too. No longer just a corporate giant, it had transformed into a shadowy conglomerate with tentacles in politics, media, and military contractors. They hired private armies to protect oil infrastructure and sabotage renewable projects. Their propaganda machine painted Phoenix as reckless anarchism, a threat to global stability. Lena knew the fight wasn't just technological, it was ideological. The world had to choose between old empires and new ecosystems. Then came a seismic shift. An unexpected alliance formed between a major Middle Eastern energy producer and a coalition of African nations embracing Phoenix technology. They announced a joint initiative to develop a continent-wide energy grid powered by Phoenix cores, promising affordable and sustainable power to over 1 billion people. This coalition challenged both Western hegemony and traditional energy monopolies. The announcement sent shockwaves through global markets. Stocks plummeted, governments scrambled to respond. Lena saw the initiative as proof that Phoenix wasn't just a tech revolution, it was geopolitical upheaval. Yet with opportunity came danger. The coalition's project faced immediate sabotage attempts, cyber intrusions, targeted assassinations of key engineers, and infrastructure bombings. The coalition's leader, a charismatic statesman named Kwame Abebe, reached out to Lena for counsel and support. Their conversations were intense. Strategy mixed with shared grief over lost lives and stolen dreams. Together, they coordinated efforts to protect critical facilities and foster community resilience. But cracks were appearing closer to home. In the United States, a faction of Phoenix supporters splintered off, advocating for radical decentralization without regulation. They believed any control mechanism was a betrayal of the revolution's spirit. This group, calling themselves the Free Corps, began distributing simplified Phoenix designs on the dark web, encouraging unlicensed builds worldwide. While some hailed them as freedom fighters, others warned their reckless approach endangered lives and undermined credibility. Lena faced a painful dilemma: condemn her own movement's fringe or risk losing control over the technology's fate. She chose dialogue, initiating a covert communication channel with the Free Corps' leader, a brilliant but reckless engineer known as Cypher. Their exchanges were a blend of challenge and respect, each pushing the other toward balance between innovation and safety. Meanwhile, personal stakes escalated. Lena's family, once distant and skeptical, faced backlash from governments targeting Phoenix affiliates. Her younger sister was detained in Canada during a protest, accused of inciting unrest. Lena was torn between leading the global revolution and protecting those she loved. At the same time, Ethan's health deteriorated. The toll of years in hiding and constant stress weakened him. Lena felt the crushing weight of responsibility, not just for the movement, but for the fragile people it relied on. As autumn deepened, Lena convened the Signal's most critical strategy session yet. The agenda: how to survive an increasingly hostile world, maintain momentum, and prepare for the inevitable confrontation with entrenched powers. They debated fiercely. Some advocated going underground permanently, others insisted on public pressure and transparency. The solution emerged as hybrid, a dual approach combining secure decentralized operations with strategic public campaigns to win hearts and minds. Lena drafted a manifesto, outlining the movement's core values: transparency, inclusivity, safety, and resilience. She distributed it widely, rallying supporters and challenging opponents. The manifesto became a rallying cry and a beacon of hope amid chaos. And then, the final piece of the puzzle fell into place. Lena received intelligence of a planned coordinated attack on multiple Phoenix hubs timed with an upcoming global climate summit. The attack aimed to cripple the movement's most visible achievements and sway international opinion against decentralized energy. The stakes had never been higher. Lena mobilized the Signal and allies worldwide. She coordinated last-minute security upgrades, evacuation plans, and rapid response teams. The night before the summit, she stood once again on the rooftop, the city lights below flickering between old and new power sources. Her mind raced with fear, hope, loss, and determination. Whatever happened next would define the future, not just of Phoenix technology, but of humanity's relationship with energy, power, and freedom. As dawn broke, Lena whispered, "For everyone who believes in a better world, we fight. We rise." The silent war was about to reach its most dangerous phase, and the world was watching. The night before the global climate summit was thick with tension. Lena's mind spun with 1,000 calculations and worst-case scenarios. Every moment brought fresh intelligence of imminent attacks on Phoenix hubs, each more audacious than the last. The Signal had mobilized teams worldwide to defend key sites, but resources were stretched thin, and trust was fragile. Lena convened an emergency digital council, their faces flickering in tiny windows across her monitor. Ethan's weakened voice anchored the meeting. "We've come too far to be stopped now. But this is the crucible. We must stand firm, together." Malik's voice joined from a hidden location in Eastern Europe, ragged but resolute, "Our teams are ready. But this will be chaos. Expect sacrifices." Lena's heart clenched. She knew the cost of freedom was steep. She reviewed the plans once more: secure communication protocols, rapid evacuation routes, on-site defense drones, and decentralized energy backups. The goal was clear: keep Phoenix cores alive through the storm. Outside, the world held its breath. Governments were locked in tense negotiations, while protests flared from New York to Nairobi, many demanding clean energy solutions amid climate crises worsening by the hour. But behind closed doors, power brokers plotted to quash what they called an energy insurgency. As dawn broke, Lena found a rare quiet moment. She stood on a balcony overlooking San Francisco Bay, watching the fog roll in, blending city lights into a hazy glow. She thought of the children in villages lit for the first time by Phoenix cores, the doctors saving lives with reliable power, the engineers risking everything for change. This was why she fought. Then came the first strike, a coordinated cyber assault on the data centers managing Phoenix network encryption. Screens around the world blinked with warnings. Signal teams scrambled, deploying countermeasures and rerouting traffic through secure quantum channels. Lena's voice guided them, steady and calm despite her pounding heart. Hours later, physical attacks began. In Southeast Asia, masked saboteurs infiltrated a manufacturing facility, destroying equipment with explosives. In South America, a drone strike targeted a remote energy farm, leveling solar arrays paired with Phoenix cores. The news broke rapidly on social media, sparking outrage and fear. But amid destruction, stories of resilience emerged. Local teams rebuilt overnight, using improvised parts and community labor. In a small Philippine town, villagers worked together, their spirits unbroken. Lena shared their stories, broadcasting hope. Meanwhile, intelligence reports uncovered disturbing evidence. Peterson had contracted paramilitary groups to carry out targeted kidnappings of Phoenix engineers. One signal courier was captured and disappeared. Lena felt the weight of each loss. She doubled down on security trainings, but the human cost was mounting. At the climate summit, world leaders confronted the crisis publicly, pressured by activists and media. Some called for immediate protection of decentralized energy tech as a human right. Others condemned it as reckless and destabilizing. Lena was invited to speak via live feed. Her voice, clear and unwavering, echoed across the halls. We stand at a crossroads. We can choose control or freedom, monopoly or innovation. Phoenix is not chaos, it is the future of energy justice. We must protect it, nurture it, and share it. The speech was met with applause and skepticism in equal measure. Yet it sparked new dialogues and forged tentative alliances. Behind the scenes, Lena coordinated with Kwame Abebe and Dr. Amara Patel to pool resources and intelligence. Together, they developed emergency protocols to protect the most vulnerable communities. Lena's connection with the Free Corps grew fragile but vital, as they offered rapid deployment capabilities to rebuild attacked hubs. On a personal level, the strain was unbearable. Ethan's health worsened, confined to a hidden medical facility, guarded fiercely by the keepers. Lena visited when she could, each meeting a reminder of what was at stake and what might be lost. Late one night, as attacks escalated, Lena received a chilling message from an anonymous source: "They're coming for you next." The warning was clear. Security tightened, safehouses rotated, encrypted comms multiplied. Yet Lena refused to hide. She amplified the message of hope and resilience, knowing that silence was surrender. The world was watching. The storm raged on, physical and digital battles intertwined, communities rising amid ruins, the future hanging in precarious balance. Lena's resolve crystallized: this was more than technology or industry. This was a fight for the very soul of human progress. As the summit closed, and emergency measures rolled out worldwide, Lena whispered into the night: "We endure. We innovate. We rise." The countdown to collision was over. The war for energy's future had begun. The aftermath of the summit left the world on edge, but beneath the surface, the tension was escalating into open conflict. Lena felt the cracks spreading through the movement she had built. The pressure of constant attacks, betrayals, and sacrifices was beginning to wear down even the strongest. In underground safehouses across continents, leaders debated the future: was Phoenix still salvageable, or was it slipping through their fingers? The Free Corps faction grew more vocal and reckless, launching unauthorized deployments that risked lives and triggered violent government crackdowns. Their manifesto called for total freedom from any form of control, a purity of decentralization that Lena sympathized with but feared could unravel everything. Cypher's messages to Lena oscillated between fiery rhetoric and reluctant cooperation, pushing her to question how much control to exert without betraying the revolution's ideals. Meanwhile, Ethan's condition worsened, a fragile thread tying Lena to her past and humanity. His time was running short, and every moment with him was a precious, painful reminder of what was at stake. One night, as Lena sat by his bedside, Ethan whispered a warning: "They're closer than you think, trust no one." The cryptic message haunted her. The signal's intelligence confirmed it: a mole had infiltrated their ranks, leaking critical information to Peterson's operatives. Paranoia spiraled. Every face, every voice became suspect. Lena instituted a brutal vetting process, but the damage was done. A major Phoenix hub in South Africa was compromised, engineers arrested, equipment seized. It was a devastating blow. Yet amid despair, Lena found unexpected strength. Kwame Abebe and the African Coalition offered sanctuary and resources. Their joint grid was operational in several regions, proving the power of unity and shared vision. Dr. Amara Patel's new catalyst design was implemented, improving efficiency and resilience of Phoenix cores, sparking renewed hope. Lena and Amara's partnership deepened into a powerful friendship, their combined intellect and determination lighting a path through the darkness. But the fractures remained. The political landscape was a battleground of misinformation. Peterson's media machine spread rumors of Phoenix Tech causing health crises and environmental damage. Protests against the movement grew violent, fueled by fear and manipulation. Lena faced threats daily, physical, digital, psychological. Yet she refused to back down. In a bold move, she launched a global transparency campaign, opening Phoenix labs for virtual tours, sharing raw data on safety and impact, and inviting public scrutiny. The move surprised many skeptics and earned the movement precious allies. Meanwhile, Cypher and the Free Cores staged a dramatic action, a massive leak of Phoenix core blueprints, forcing a wave of unregulated builds worldwide. The result was chaos. Some units malfunctioned disastrously, causing injuries and fires. Governments used the incidents as proof of Phoenix's dangers, cracking down harder than ever. Lena confronted Cypher directly, pleading for responsibility and caution. Their tense exchange exposed the ideological divide at the heart of the revolution. The personal stakes became painfully clear when Lena's sister was released from detention, broken but alive. The family's ordeal galvanized Lena's resolve to protect loved ones and the greater cause. As winter approached, Lena orchestrated a critical meeting with global Phoenix leaders in a secluded location. The goal: unify the fractured movement, rebuild trust, and plan a coordinated strategy to withstand future assaults. The discussions were heated, sometimes bitter, but ultimately productive. They agreed on a decentralized yet accountable network model, combining open innovation with rigorous safety standards. Lena emerged as the undisputed leader, tempered by hardship and wisdom. Just as the new strategy was set to roll out, disaster struck. A surprise assault on the Nevada core facility, home to Ethan's original reactor, threatened to destroy the symbolic heart of the revolution. Armed mercenaries breached the perimeter, igniting a fierce firefight with the keepers. Lena was torn between directing defense remotely and rushing to Ethan's side. The standoff lasted hours, ending with heavy losses on both sides, but the core saved. The attack shocked the world and reignited global support for Phoenix technology. Lena addressed the crisis in a heartfelt broadcast: "We stand at the breaking point, but from here, we rebuild stronger. Our fight is not just for energy, but for the future of humanity." The words resonated deeply, sparking a surge of solidarity and renewed activism. In the quiet that followed, Lena took a moment to reflect on the cost of revolution: the friends lost, the betrayals endured, the sacrifices made. Yet she knew this was only the beginning. The war for energy freedom was far from over, but the Phoenix was rising, brighter than ever. The attack on the Nevada core facility was a wake-up call for the entire Phoenix movement. Losses were counted, wounds tended, but more importantly, the world watched. The brutal assault, intended to crush the revolution's spirit, instead ignited a fierce backlash. Governments and activists alike condemned the violence, while grassroots support for decentralized energy swelled. Lena seized the moment, channeling the outrage into a coordinated global response. The signal ramped up outreach programs, connecting with communities hungry for clean, reliable power. In cities from Detroit to Dakar, Phoenix hubs blossomed, run by local teams empowered with training and resources. The movement was no longer just a technology, it was a people's revolution. Behind the scenes, Lena worked tirelessly to solidify alliances. Kwame Abebe's coalition expanded, offering stability and infrastructure in regions long ignored by traditional power grids. Dr. Amara Patel's breakthrough catalyst was integrated into newer Phoenix core models, boosting efficiency and lowering costs. These advances shifted the narrative from fear to possibility. However, the fight was far from over. Peterson and its allies doubled down on covert operations. Cyber attacks became more sophisticated, targeting not just systems but individuals. Key Phoenix scientists received threatening messages, safe houses were compromised. Lena lived with constant vigilance, knowing any misstep could be fatal. Yet, amidst the chaos, unexpected partnerships emerged. Former executives from fossil fuel companies, disillusioned by their industry's destruction, reached out privately to Lena. They offered insider knowledge and resources, bridging a gap between old and new worlds. Lena saw in them a chance to accelerate change, but she also recognized the risks. Trust was fragile, and one miscalculation could undo years of progress. The internal dynamics of the signal shifted as well. New leaders arose, bringing fresh ideas and energy, but also fresh conflicts. Debates over governance, security, and openness became daily rituals. Lena had to balance innovation with control, freedom with responsibility. The Free Corps faction remained a thorn. While their radical vision inspired many, their disregard for safety undermined public confidence. Lena worked to integrate their best elements into the broader movement, but tensions simmered. One particularly heated exchange with Cypher ended in a fragile truce. "We want the same thing," Lena told him, "but the path matters." Cypher replied, "The future is chaos, or it's nothing." Meanwhile, Lena's personal life fractured further. Ethan's health deteriorated beyond what anyone expected. The keepers fought to keep him alive, but his body was failing. Lena faced the painful truth: she might lose the man who had been her anchor, her inspiration, and her greatest love. Yet in his final days, Ethan remained defiant. "This is bigger than me," he whispered. "Keep fighting." His words became a mantra for Lena, fueling her through exhaustion and grief. In the broader world, the Phoenix movement's influence seeped into politics and culture. Cities passed laws recognizing decentralized energy rights. Artists, musicians, and writers celebrated the new dawn. Schools incorporated Phoenix technology into curricula. The energy revolution was weaving into the fabric of society. But Peterson was not defeated. Their propaganda machine pivoted, portraying Phoenix as an uncontrollable force threatening civilization itself. They pushed governments to impose harsh regulations, citing security risks and economic instability. Lena faced an uphill battle in courts and parliaments, where money and fear wielded enormous power. The tide began to turn again, this time in favor of resilience and adaptation. Lena led an international summit focused on Phoenix governance, security, and ethics. Representatives from every continent gathered to forge a new framework, one that balanced innovation with safety, freedom with accountability. The summit was contentious but historic. Lena's leadership shone as she navigated conflicts and brokered compromises. The resulting Phoenix Accord set standards for core deployment, open innovation, and community involvement. It was a milestone, a blueprint for the future. Yet, no victory was complete without sacrifice. As winter gave way to spring, Lena received news that shattered her: Ethan had passed. The loss tore through her, leaving a void filled with sorrow and resolve. At his memorial, surrounded by friends and allies, Lena spoke not just of grief but of hope. Ethan believed in a future where energy empowers all people, not just the few. We owe him that future. The movement swelled in response, more united and determined than ever. In the months that followed, Lena focused on healing and rebuilding. She expanded educational programs, funded new research, and deepened community partnerships. The Phoenix was no longer a secret project or a fringe idea, it was a global force reshaping the very meaning of power. And just when it seemed the storm was subsiding, a new challenge loomed. A mysterious group, calling themselves the Blackout, began orchestrating coordinated energy disruptions targeting Phoenix hubs and traditional grids alike. Their motives were unclear. Some whispered they were remnants of the old energy guard, others believed they were anarchists seeking to reset civilization. Lena knew this was a new kind of battle, one that would test not just technology but the spirit of the revolution. She prepared the signal and her allies for what lay ahead. As the world watched, the phoenix rose again, stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever darkness came next. The blackout strikes were unlike anything the Phoenix movement had faced before. They didn't just target infrastructure, they aimed to undermine trust itself, plunging cities into darkness, spreading confusion, and feeding fear. Lena watched the news reports in horror as entire neighborhoods lost power, not just in places reliant on Phoenix cores, but also in traditional grids. The attacks were synchronized and brutal, cutting communications and leaving millions isolated. The signal scrambled to respond. Lena convened a war room, a nerve center where tech experts, strategists, and field operatives coordinated defense and recovery efforts in real time. Every second counted. Security protocols were upgraded, Phoenix hubs fortified with emergency backups and AI-driven defense drones. Teams raced against the clock to restore power and reassure frightened communities. But the blackout wasn't just a physical threat, it was psychological warfare. Anonymous messages flooded social media, spreading rumors of Phoenix technology being a Trojan horse for widespread surveillance and control. Some accused Lena personally of betraying the revolution, while others called for surrender to the old energy order to restore stability. The lines between friend and foe blurred. Lena faced threats not only from external enemies but also from within. Some Signal members advocated for aggressive retaliation. Hacking the blackout's networks, exposing their leaders, and even sabotaging their infrastructure. Others warned that escalation could lead to open conflict, destroying public support and risking innocent lives. Lena grappled with these dilemmas, knowing each decision could tip the fragile balance. In the midst of the chaos, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Maya Torres, a young coder who had joined the Signal after her hometown lost power during an early Phoenix rollout, developed a new algorithm capable of predicting the blackout's next moves by analyzing patterns in data streams and social media chatter. Maya's work was a beacon of hope, enabling preemptive actions that saved countless hubs from attack. Lena nurtured Maya's talents, reminding herself of the importance of new blood and fresh perspectives. Meanwhile, Lena's personal life remained a complex web. She found solace in her growing friendship with Dr. Amara Patel, whose calm intellect and unwavering dedication balanced Lena's fiery resolve. Their conversations ranged from technical innovations to the philosophical implications of energy freedom. Amara became both confidant and strategist, helping Lena navigate the murky waters of leadership. Yet the strain of loss, responsibility, and constant danger left Lena exhausted. Sleepless nights were common, moments of doubt crept in. One night, after a particularly brutal day of attacks and setbacks, Lena sat alone overlooking the city skyline, the lights flickering like distant stars. She wondered if the cost was too high, if the dream of Phoenix was worth the sacrifices demanded. But then she thought of the children reading by solar-powered lamps, the hospitals running smoothly despite blackouts, the engineers risking everything for change. That vision rekindled her spirit. The war against the blackout was not just about energy, it was a battle for hope, for progress, for humanity's future. As the Signal intensified its efforts, intelligence finally uncovered the blackout's leadership, a shadowy coalition of former energy tycoons, rogue mercenaries, and cyber-anarchists united by a desire to maintain control through chaos. The revelation stunned many, exposing the complex web of interests behind the attacks. Lena prepared a public address, revealing the truth and calling for global unity against the threat. Her words galvanized support, leading to international cooperation unprecedented in the energy sector. Governments, activists, and corporations reluctantly joined forces, sharing intelligence and resources to dismantle the blackout's network. Yet victory was far from assured. The blackout retaliated with a massive cyber offensive targeting the Signal's headquarters. Alarms blared as systems went dark, backup protocols kicked in just in time to prevent total collapse. Lena coordinated the counterattack personally, her voice calm but commanding over secure channels. The battle raged across virtual and physical realms, a testament to the new nature of warfare. In a daring raid, signal operatives infiltrated a blackout stronghold, capturing key leaders and uncovering caches of stolen Phoenix technology. The operation was a turning point, but also a reminder of the war's complexity and the high stakes involved. The movement's resilience was tested repeatedly. Public opinion fluctuated with each new attack and recovery. Lena became a symbol of endurance, her story broadcast worldwide, inspiring millions to stand firm. Yet the personal cost weighed heavily. Friends were lost, alliances strained, and the dream of a clean energy future seemed both closer and more fragile than ever. Through it all, Lena's resolve never faltered. She understood that disruption meant more than technology, it meant upheaval, sacrifice, and the courage to face the unknown. The Phoenix was not just about powering homes, it was about powering a revolution in how humanity lived, connected, and dreamed. As the Shadow War continued, Lena prepared for the next phase, knowing the fight for the $1 trillion industry had only just begun. The war against the blackout had pushed Lena and the Phoenix movement into uncharted territory. With every victory came new threats, every alliance exposed hidden fractures. Trust had become the most precious, and elusive, currency. Lena spent hours each day navigating delicate negotiations between governments, corporate allies, activists, and the fractured factions within the signal itself. The pressure was relentless. The Free Corps faction, once a source of raw energy and radical innovation, now threatened to splinter the movement entirely. Their refusal to compromise on governance and safety protocols created a rift too wide to ignore. Cypher, once Lena's closest ally and the voice of pure revolution, had become increasingly distant and unpredictable. In a private confrontation, Lena urged him to reconsider, without trust and structure, chaos wins. We need each other, not division. Cypher's reply was chilling in its certainty, freedom can't be negotiated. You want control, I want change. That's the crossroads we face. As Phoenix hubs expanded into new regions, Lena was forced to confront the real-world consequences of ideological conflict. In a South American city where Free Corps had independently deployed unregulated units, a catastrophic failure caused a citywide blackout, sparking riots and deepening public fear. Lena coordinated emergency aid and issued a public apology, acknowledging mistakes and pledging stricter oversight. The incident underscored the fragile balance between innovation and responsibility. In Washington, Lena met with representatives from the Energy Security Council, a powerful coalition of industry veterans and policymakers skeptical of Phoenix's rapid growth. The meetings were tense but necessary. Lena presented data, shared transparency reports, and proposed joint task forces to monitor deployments and safety. Slowly, walls began to crack. Some members expressed tentative support, recognizing that denying Phoenix's inevitability risked falling behind globally. Meanwhile, Lena's personal life offered rare moments of light. Her friendship with Dr. Amara Patel deepened, evolving into a partnership grounded in mutual respect and shared purpose. Together, they brainstormed advancements to Phoenix technology, integrating AI-driven predictive maintenance and eco-friendly materials to enhance durability and reduce environmental impact. These innovations sparked excitement within the signal, inspiring a new generation of engineers and activists. Yet, the shadow of loss lingered. Ethan's absence was a constant ache. Lena often found herself talking to his memory, drawing strength from his vision and courage. In moments of solitude, she questioned whether the sacrifices were worth the cost. One evening, as Lena prepared for a major international energy forum, she received a confidential message from a mysterious source claiming to have evidence of a hidden agenda within Petroson's leadership, proof that they intended to sabotage Phoenix technology to preserve their monopoly. The information was tantalizing but unverifiable. Lena faced a dilemma: pursue the lead and risk a trap, or focus on rebuilding trust and stability. She chose cautious investigation, delegating trusted operatives to discreetly gather intelligence while maintaining her public commitments. The Energy Forum became a pivotal moment. Lena took the stage before a packed hall, the world's eyes fixed on her. Her speech was both a call to unity and a manifesto of change. We are at a crossroads, not just in energy, but in how we choose to live and govern. The Phoenix is more than technology. It is hope, resilience, and freedom. But that freedom requires responsibility. We must build bridges, not walls. The audience responded with a standing ovation, but the undercurrents of skepticism remained. As the forum ended, Lena was approached by a high-ranking diplomat who warned her of increasing pressure from Peterson's allies to stifle Phoenix's growth through regulatory means and misinformation campaigns. The threat was clear: Phoenix had to evolve or be crushed. Determined to act, Lena convened a strategic summit with allies from government, industry, and civil society. They drafted a comprehensive roadmap for Phoenix's integration into global energy systems, prioritizing safety, transparency, and equitable access. The plan emphasized community ownership, open-source innovation, and rigorous oversight mechanisms. It was ambitious and unprecedented. The months that followed were a whirlwind of implementation, negotiation, and adaptation. Phoenix hubs became models of sustainable development, powering schools, hospitals, and businesses while generating local employment. Success stories multiplied. Yet the fight was far from over. The blackout regrouped, launching sophisticated disinformation campaigns that blurred lines between truth and fiction, sowing doubt about Phoenix's safety and intentions. Lena responded with a coordinated media strategy, amplifying voices of scientists, community leaders, and everyday users who benefited from the technology. Slowly, public trust rebounded. Within the signal, Lena worked to heal divisions. She met privately with Cypher, seeking to rekindle their alliance. Their conversations were raw and honest, revealing shared fears and hopes. Though they disagreed on methods, they found common ground in vision. The reconciliation was fragile but promising. As spring blossomed, Lena reflected on the journey, the battles won and lost, the alliances forged and broken, the unyielding belief in a better future. She understood that the true power of Phoenix lay not just in technology, but in the people who breathed life into it. The crossroads of trust had not vanished, but Lena was ready to face them head-on, knowing that only through unity could the revolution endure. The landscape of energy was shifting beneath Lena's feet as Phoenix technology matured and spread. What had started as a disruptive innovation was now pushing boundaries no one had dared to cross before. Lena found herself at the forefront of a movement not just changing how power was generated, but redefining the relationship between technology, society, and governance. In the months following the strategic summit, the signal accelerated its focus on integration and innovation. With Amara Patel leading the research team, the latest generation of Phoenix cores included adaptive AI systems capable of self-optimization, learning from usage patterns, weather fluctuations, and grid demands to maximize efficiency and minimize waste. These advancements promise to make energy more accessible and reliable than ever, especially in underserved regions where traditional infrastructure was sparse or failing. The ripple effects were immediate. Rural communities in Appalachia, previously grappling with unstable power and economic decline, began thriving as new Phoenix hubs supplied affordable, clean energy. Local entrepreneurs launched startups energized by this newfound stability. Schools installed Phoenix-powered tech labs, inspiring a generation eager to innovate. Lena traveled extensively, witnessing firsthand the impact of their work. In a small town in West Virginia, she met Maya Torres again, now leading a community innovation center funded by the Signal. Maya's team was developing microgrids that could operate independently or connect with larger networks, an idea born from the lessons learned during the blackout crisis. These microgrids empowered residents to share power, trade excess energy, and build resilience against outages. "This is just the beginning," Maya told Lena, her eyes shining with conviction. Yet, even as optimism swelled, challenges emerged. Peterson and its allies launched a new wave of lobbying, pushing governments to impose stringent certification processes and heavy taxes on Phoenix cores, arguing that rapid adoption without thorough oversight endangered national security. Some countries capitulated, erecting bureaucratic barriers that slowed deployments. Lena responded by expanding the signal's legal and advocacy teams, working tirelessly to defend the movement's progress in courts and legislatures. She also leaned into transparency, publishing comprehensive safety and performance reports to counter misinformation. Inside the signal, debates over the pace and direction of innovation intensified. The Free Corps faction pressed for faster, more radical changes, dismissing regulatory concerns as obstacles to progress. Traditionalists warned of alienating governments and partners. Lena sought to mediate, balancing vision with pragmatism. One pivotal meeting saw Lena and Cypher face off, their words sharp but ultimately respectful. Cypher argued, "We risk losing our soul if we compromise too much. Revolution isn't about playing by their rules." Lena replied, "Without bridges, we'll be isolated and crushed. Change demands patience and strength." The conversation ended without full agreement but with renewed commitment to coexistence. Meanwhile, Lena's personal network expanded as she forged alliances with unexpected partners. Former Petrosen executives who had defected provided invaluable insights into the industry's tactics and vulnerabilities. Activists and community leaders across continents shared stories of resilience and adaptation. The movement was evolving into a global ecosystem of collaboration. At the same time, Lena grappled with the emotional toll of leadership. The relentless pace left little room for rest or reflection. Amara became her anchor, reminding her of the importance of balance and perspective. On quiet evenings, they discussed not just technology but philosophy, ethics, and the human spirit. Lena's vision deepened, to build a future where energy was a human right, not a commodity controlled by elites. A breakthrough came when the signal launched Phoenix Core 3.0, a modular design that could be tailored to different environments, from urban rooftops to remote deserts. Its open-source software encouraged global developers to create custom applications, sparking an innovation explosion. Developers in Nairobi designed energy management apps for informal settlements. Engineers in Berlin adapted cores for integration with electric vehicle networks. The possibilities seemed endless. This wave of creativity galvanized communities and businesses alike, accelerating adoption and economic growth. However, with growth came new vulnerabilities. Cybersecurity threats evolved alongside technology. The blackout had been weakened but not eliminated. Lena prioritized building robust defense systems, combining AI monitoring, decentralized control, and rapid response teams. In a tense operation, Signal cybersecurity experts foiled a major cyber attack targeting Phoenix's data centers, tracing the source back to a sophisticated syndicate intent on exploiting energy systems for ransom. The incident highlighted the stakes and the necessity of vigilance. As the world watched, Phoenix technology began to influence energy policy on a grand scale. Governments incorporated it into climate commitments, infrastructure plans, and social programs. The industry's $1 trillion valuation was no longer a distant prediction but an unfolding reality. Yet, amid success, Lena remained grounded. She understood that disruption was a double-edged sword, powerful and unpredictable. She continued to push for ethics and equity, reminding her team and supporters that technology alone could not solve humanity's problems. The true revolution was in how people connected and cared for each other. In a quiet moment, Lena penned a letter to Ethan's memory, reflecting on their journey. "We dared to dream, to build, to fight," she wrote. "The road is long, but together, we are rewriting the future." As Phoenix technology broke the mold of the old energy order, Lena stood ready to lead the next chapter, one defined by innovation, inclusion, and the relentless pursuit of a better world. The momentum behind Phoenix technology had reached a critical mass. Markets, governments, and communities were no longer debating its potential, they were living its impact. Lena could feel the shift like a rising tide, pulling everything toward a new era. Yet, tipping points come with tipping costs. The delicate balance between innovation, trust, and power teetered on the edge. Lena's days were consumed with navigating unprecedented challenges and opportunities. The signal had grown from a scrappy startup into a global force, but that growth brought complexities, internal politics, cultural differences, and the daunting task of scaling technology ethically and sustainably. One morning, as sunlight poured into her office overlooking the city skyline, Lena reviewed data from a pilot program in Southeast Asia. Communities previously cut off from stable energy now enjoyed reliable power, improved health outcomes, and educational opportunities. The success stories were countless. Children studying late into the night, clinics running advanced equipment, entrepreneurs launching green businesses. But even as the numbers soared, Lena knew the real test lay in maintaining this progress. She convened a virtual summit with leaders across continents, focusing on Phoenix equity, ensuring access was fair, and benefits reached those most marginalized. The summit highlighted tensions. Some governments expressed concern about sovereignty, fearing dependence on foreign technology and networks. Others grappled with balancing modernization against traditional ways of life. Lena listened carefully, advocating for solutions that respected local cultures and priorities while advancing universal access to clean energy. At home, the signal faced internal upheaval. A faction of board members pushed for rapid commercialization and profit maximization, risking alienation of core supporters. Lena fought to preserve the movement's mission-driven heart, emphasizing long-term vision over short-term gains. The battle was personal and political. One late night, during a heated board meeting, Lena stood firm. We cannot lose sight of why we started this journey. This is about people's lives and futures, not just numbers on a balance sheet. The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Meanwhile, the blackout's remnants lurked in shadows, adapting tactics to the changing landscape. Cyber threats intensified, targeting Phoenix's supply chains and data infrastructure. Lena invested heavily in cybersecurity and intelligence, coordinating with global agencies to anticipate and neutralize attacks. In a daring counter-operation, Signal cyber teams infiltrated a blackout cell, uncovering plans for a large-scale disruption aimed at triggering economic panic. The preemptive strike averted disaster, but the threat underscored the ongoing vigilance required. Outside the boardrooms and battlefields, communities shaped the revolution's soul. Lena traveled to a remote indigenous village where a Phoenix microgrid transformed daily life. She met elders, youth, and families, hearing stories of resilience and hope. Their voices reminded her of the revolution's deeper purpose, not just technology, but empowerment. One evening, back in her office, Lena reflected on the journey. The challenges had been immense, the betrayals, losses, and uncertainties, but so had been the breakthroughs, friendships, and dreams realized. She understood that the tipping point was not a destination but a process, continuous, evolving, and demanding courage. A call from Maya Torres brought news of a breakthrough, a scalable, portable Phoenix core capable of powering entire disaster zones in hours. The implications were staggering: rapid response, humanitarian aid, and climate resilience. Together with Amara, Lena began planning deployment strategies and partnerships with international relief organizations. As the movement gained visibility, Lena's story became emblematic of modern leadership: bold, compassionate, and relentless. Interviews, speeches, and think tanks amplified the vision of a world powered by innovation and solidarity. Yet Lena remained humble, aware that the future depended on collective action. The tipping point was near. The world stood on the brink of transformation, and Lena was ready to lead through uncertainty, inspired by the belief that when technology and humanity aligned, the impossible became inevitable. The war for the future of energy had entered its most intense phase. Lena could feel the pressure mounting from all sides: the industry titans desperate to reclaim control, governments demanding assurances, and a world watching for the outcome of this unprecedented upheaval. The blackout's shadows had not vanished, they had only become more elusive, striking with precision and speed. Lena knew the next moves had to be decisive. The Signal's leadership convened an emergency summit. Intelligence reports indicated that the blackout was preparing one last, devastating strike, an attack designed not just to disrupt infrastructure but to shatter global confidence in renewable innovation. The stakes could not have been higher. Lena outlined a bold plan, a coordinated global defense that combined technology, diplomacy, and grassroots mobilization. Every Phoenix hub would become a fortress, linked through decentralized networks and fortified with AI-driven defenses. But more than hardware, this was a battle for hearts and minds. Lena tasked her communications team to launch a worldwide campaign highlighting the positive impact of Phoenix technology, stories of transformed communities, renewed hope, and shared prosperity. The campaign aimed to drown out fear with facts and unity. Meanwhile, Lena personally reached out to former adversaries in industry and government, seeking alliances rooted in pragmatism and mutual interest. She understood that to protect the revolution, old rivals had to become partners. The first signs of success emerged as several key players publicly endorsed the Phoenix vision, signaling a shift in the geopolitical landscape. The night before the planned counterstrike, Lena barely slept. The memories of losses, friends, allies, moments stolen by chaos, wove through her thoughts. She found strength in the promise of a new dawn. Dawn broke with a surge of coordinated action. Across continents, Phoenix hubs activated defensive protocols. AI monitors scanned relentlessly for threats while field teams stood ready to respond. The Blackout's forces launched waves of cyber and physical attacks, but the signals network held firm. In a tense moment, a major data center faced a breach attempt. Lena, monitoring live feeds, directed a swift countermeasure, neutralizing the threat seconds before catastrophe. News spread of the defense's success, buoying public morale. Yet the battle was far from over. A secret meeting with Cypher revealed troubling intelligence. The Blackout's core leadership planned to exploit internal divisions within the signal to undermine defenses. Lena confronted Cypher with the gravity of this revelation. Together, they devised a plan to strengthen internal unity, combining transparency with renewed commitment to shared goals. The Unity campaign included town halls, workshops, and open forums, spaces where voices could be heard and mistrust addressed. The effort rekindled hope and solidarity. In the climax of the conflict, a joint operation led by the Signal and allied governments targeted a hidden Blackout stronghold. The raid, executed with precision and courage, resulted in the capture of key leaders and the seizure of weaponized technology. The victory was a turning point, breaking the back of the Blackout's campaign. In the aftermath, Lena addressed the world. Her message was clear and inspiring: we have faced darkness together, and emerged stronger. This is not the end, but the beginning of a new era where energy empowers everyone, where innovation and humanity walk hand in hand. The speech resonated globally, sparking renewed investment, cooperation, and optimism. As calm returned, Lena took a moment to reflect. The final gambit had tested every fiber of her being, but also reaffirmed the power of vision, courage, and unity. The revolution was secured, not by technology alone, but by the people who dared to believe in a better future. The dust of conflict had settled, and a new dawn rose over the world of energy. Lena stood on the balcony of the Signal's headquarters, gazing out at a city powered by countless Phoenix cores humming silently beneath the surface. The journey had been harrowing, filled with battles both external and within her own soul, but the future was finally within reach. Phoenix technology was no longer a disruptive novelty. It had become the backbone of sustainable energy systems across the globe. Governments, corporations, and communities had woven it into the fabric of daily life, embracing a vision once considered impossible. Yet Lena knew this was not an end but a beginning. The lessons learned through trials, the need for trust, transparency, inclusivity, shaped the movement's new direction. In boardrooms and village squares alike, voices called for a renewed commitment to equity and ethical innovation. Lena's leadership evolved from a fight for survival into stewardship of a shared future. She dedicated herself to mentoring emerging leaders, fostering a culture where innovation served humanity's highest ideals. The Signal's open-source platforms flourished, inviting creators worldwide to collaborate on improving and expanding Phoenix's capabilities. Educational programs inspired young minds to dream beyond limits. At a global summit, Lena shared the story of their revolution, not just the technology, but the people, the struggles, and the unyielding hope that propelled them forward. Her message resonated deeply: innovation is not merely about invention, it is about connection, connecting ideas, communities, and hearts to build a future where everyone thrives. As Lena's gaze shifted from the city skyline to the horizon, she felt a profound sense of peace. The road had been long and fraught with sacrifice, but the spark they had ignited burned brighter than ever. The $1 trillion industry disrupted was transforming into a new ecosystem of possibility and promise. And in this new era, Lena understood that the greatest power was not in technology alone, but in the courage to imagine, and create, a better world together. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?